This is the Griffin Podcast, episode number 84. We continue in our agent plan, and we are in the bonus section, the final section. And the subject here is repeat and refine your technique. Are you a home seller or a home buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property? Or maybe you're an agent who needs a plan, but you can't find an easy way, any of you, to get your answers? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of The Griffin and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction, if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the very near future, or maybe you want a real estate agent plan, you can take advantage of all our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com, Griffin courses.com. Okay, let's get started. We are in the final throes of our agent plan. I call it the bonus section because these are just some tips that once you actually have begun to establish a business, you must repeat and refine your technique. So what do I mean by this? Well, the first reminder is that a lot of you will get going. And I know some of you are just listening to this for the first time. You said, I'd just love to sell my first house. You will. You will stay strategic, follow the advice in this podcast, and you will be fine. Okay? Get our agent plan and just read it. Mark it up. Do some homework. If you want to be successful, you cannot be lazy and think you're going to muscle your way into selling houses. It does not work well. You'll sell a couple maybe, but in the long run, it is not sustainable and never predictable. So the first point is, do not try to set it and forget it. Oh, I learned that, and I sold a house, and that's good. Everything will continue from there. I just can't stand that advice to set it and forget it. It's just such a, I don't know, it's such a creepy thing you hear all over the internet. Oh, this is passive income, and I'm going to set it and forget it. Well, listen, I own investment properties, and there's no setting it and forgetting it. You have to pay attention to it. And I have businesses that have the potential to repeat without really my involvement. I never abdicate responsibility. I'm always watching. Yes, maybe I'm watching at a higher level and I'm creating opportunities for others, but set it and forget it. The only thing you would do to set and forget is to sell it. Otherwise, it is vulnerable for attack. It is a vulnerable business for atrophy. So much can go wrong when you have that abdication or that cocky attitude. And a lot of you that have been around it, you say, well, I'm only by referral now. Look, I'm not knocking, the Joe Stumps and the Brian Buffinis of the world who teach those techniques, but that's a very proactive environment as well. I know I coach top producing agents all around the country in addition to the Griffin work. And there's no such thing as setting it, forgetting, right? You could get steamrolled by especially the economic changes and how they affect real estate. It's like it's like the Mad Hatter's ride at Disney, right? It's just all over the place, topsy-turvy. 1 minute, everything's rocking and rolling and everything is so good and easy. And then the next minute, literally within months, it's like a faucet gets turned off, boom, like that. Do not ever have a mentality of set it and forget it. 2, the way to get beyond that is to subscribe to really good business philosophy. So I recommend you subscribe. That's all he said. You subscribe to the philosophy of constant and never-ending improvement. This is something I learned long ago in my study and my improvement of business. I came across the term Kaizen or Kaizen. And that is the Japanese philosophy of constant and never-ending improvement. And I learned it really around a company such as Toyota. And why have they been such a successful automobile company for so long? And it's because from the very top of the organization, the CEO, all the way down to whatever entry-level work is being done at the company, they all are looking to constantly and never-endingly improve. So that means that every day they wake up, they're trying to make the business better. And that's what I'm talking about here, is that as you do something well in your real estate business, the point of this podcast is to repeat and refine. So you sell one house, what you should do immediately to work on your business get a yellow pad of paper, and I'm sitting with 2 legal pads right next to me and always a pen so that I can write down what did I just do to repeat and refine. In fact, I do it on the podcast. Right before this, and sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes I went from Word to Google Docs because it was easier to manage. I changed the font because it's easier to read my notes when I'm talking to you. All of that is just subtle, small change that is constantly improving how you do anything. Now, in your real estate business, there are modules. That's why I tell everybody, try to take advantage of our plans, especially our agent plan, because there are modules in there. You have to manage your marketing module. And the only reason for marketing is to try to acquire listings that are in your geography, right? That's the main reason for it. There are many other applications for it, but that's the main reason. Then once you find where those people are, you have to go through a conversion module so that you convert them from a lead to a prospect to your client. Then you have to have a closing module where you make sure that the deal stays together and your client stays calm and everybody's happy. And then a past client module where your business is accelerating because you treat all those past clients like they're family for life. You see, those are all managed modules. So it gives you a framework that when you come in to work on your business or you sit down to work on your business these days, many of you working from home with this new virtual business world that we live in, and you look at those modules and you say, what could I improve just a little bit today? Now, sometimes you might look at a module or you might hear this podcast for the first time and say, yikes, I've never worked on my business before. I didn't even know there was such a thing. So what do I do? What do I start? Okay, well, you start by saying, do you have something that when a buyer or a seller especially gets in a conversation with you that you could give them? Do you even have a plan? You see, so sometimes working on the business starts with having a simple base to repeat upon. You see, if you muscle your way through a transaction with a seller, for example, you actually took them through a planned process. I mean, there were things you might not have felt planned. They might have not felt your plan, but y'all got A through Z. Just go back and document. That's how every great plan starts. Just document what you did to get through that plan. And the parts that you didn't like or you weren't good at, get rid of them. Refine them out. It's like a great writer. It's an editing process. You edit in your business. The third and final point here is that by doing this, you're creating constant adjustments that will bulletproof your business. So what do I mean? I mean, bulletproof is a very strong terminology. Really? My business won't collapse? Well, there's really no, like I said, don't ever set it and forget it. So don't get naive and think bulletproof, the bullet won't hurt still, right? But my point is, and I said this, when a business goes up and down, but you're working on it, in it means you're taking a buyer around, you're trying to sell that listing by doing open houses, you're listing more properties by talking to sellers, you're working in the work. But thinking about how to make it better is working on it. That's the point here, right? So as you make those constant adjustments and you're so much into it, you see the cloud coming. See, right now, as of the recording of this, the real estate market across the country is white hot. White hot. Sellers are in the catbird seat. And in fact, they have a new problem. Where are they going to go if they sell? Because the inventory is limited. And when something good comes on, there are multiple offers. So real estate agents, you better get creative and look for off-market properties for them. They'll slide that tip in there. But the point is, really, what you need to make sure that you're talking about is this improvement is really helping you forecast where you need to be. Right? See, right now, if the market's hot, what happens when it cools down? What will your business be ready to do? See, in my case, I anticipate an enormity of expired listings. It's going to be the game of musical chairs where all of the sellers who are not properly advised or were naive or were too greedy on their asking price, the music will stop and they'll all be sitting there, and many of them will really need to sell. And they're going to need a real plan from a real agent who's been working on the business, who can really give them advice and can help them. And I want that to be you. Okay? So that constant adjustment will bulletproof you, and you'll actually get more business in the swings from poor markets to good markets. Think about it. In a bad market, if it weeds out a lot of agents, but you've been strategic and you're in there and you're actually getting a better piece of the pie, well, what do you think what happens when it accelerates? You're the first go-to person there too. See what I mean? So in good and bad times, there's a flight to the standard of professionalism, the flight to gold when things are topsy-turvy. I want that to be you. Let me summarize. In the agent plan, we are now in the final section, which I call the bonus section. We went through the closing process, but now we're talking about how do you deal with improving your business? Well, you repeat and refine your best techniques. And that starts with the mentality, don't ever set it and forget it. And anybody says that, they're a suspect immediately. Like, don't be sucked into somebody saying, just set it and forget it. Don't do that, ever. 2, subscribe to the philosophy of constant and never-ending improvement, like the Japanese business term Kaizen, okay? From the top of the organization to the bottom, they're always improving when they adopt that philosophy. And that's why a lot of those businesses, AKA or I.E. in Exemplia, I'll have to go back and check the Latin there, right? For example, there you go. You want to watch Toyota and you want to look at their history and how they've survived so long and think about what they do with hybrid cars. They have more cars that go 60 miles to the gallon. I had a Prius during the recession that I had for 6 years. Back then they were getting 50, 60 miles a gallon, right? People I have a Jeep now, Jeep Wrangler. I can go around the corner basically before the battery runs out. Why? I think the Japanese are better at constant, never-ending improvement. 3rd, those constant adjustments using that Kaizen philosophy will bulletproof you just like it did Toyota over many years. All right, I'll summarize it this way. Once you build a successful real estate business based on a strategic approach, it's critical not to get fooled by a set it and forget it attitude, right? It's critical also to subscribe to the Japanese business philosophy of Kaizen, or continuous improvement. When you constantly work on bettering your business, you begin to bulletproof it against all external changes that challenge its very survival. Okay, now remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction or a better direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future. Or maybe you're an agent who wants some help by any of you can get our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com. GRIFFIN courses.com. Instant access, digital access. Go over there and get yourself strategic. Also, don't forget, of course, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can find us on our social media channels so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload an episode. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you'd share our content with anyone thinking about selling or buying property or becoming a real estate agent so that they get the help that they need to be more successful. Now, remember, I sign off the same way every time. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go take action and get to work on a plan for buying or selling your next property or becoming a successful real estate agent. And we will see you in the next episode to hopefully help you do just that. Thanks again.